Welcome to this video where I will walk you through the basic setup and configuration of remote access in Blue Open Studio, basically going into the secure viewer and the mobile access parts. Okay, so first let's go into the server. The Windows computer that I'm going to use has the um, BOS machine SCADA expert runtime data server, basically. So it's basically the local runtime for the project. And what I've done is I have pre-created some stuff in here. I pre-created a driver sheet with some holding registers and some bools. I have created just a real simple alarm worksheet, and I basically have created a screen. Okay, looks like this. The other thing that I've done is in the viewer preferences, okay, I just basically maxed this out just to makes it a little bit easier to work with. You know, typically this is where in kiosk mode or something like that, this is where you have a lot more flexibility with the secure viewer. Okay, click OK. Under communication, here's the data server. Okay. So at this point, I haven't done anything. I have not saved as HTML, etc. And if you look, I'm working with the project and saving the project basically to the share location. So if I go back to here, you can look, you can see it's being shared. Okay. So I'm going to run the project. Okay. And you could see this is the viewer, basically make some alarms happen. Okay. That's the native viewer. So now if I go down here and look at my current sessions, you could see basically all I have is this is a guest. This is the remote desktop user, I suppose. The client, this is the name of the server computer itself. It's the viewer client. It's using one connection, but it's not consuming a thin client license. Okay, so that's what's happening on the server, on the runtime machine. So now what I'm going to do is let me call up my client. Now I'm remote desktoping into my client. And what I'm going to do here is, so on this client, I have not installed anything other than the thin client software. So not a full installation of BOS. So I'm just simply going to go to the configuration utility. There's my data server. Okay, that's that other machine. Okay. And then basically going to browse to that server location, point to the app file. Okay, so basically a simple share. I'm going to save this configuration, then run the viewer. Okay, so I actually did this on purpose, generating an error. Okay, so what's happening here is if I go back to the runtime machine, the server, I'm going to stop the project. The problem that we have is that the TCP/IP service is not running. So to change that, we go into runtime task, and you'll see under runtime task, you'll see TCP/IP server, is set to manual. I want to set it to automatic so that when I start the project, this will start. Okay, okay. Now I'll run it. Okay. Now I'll go back to my client. Okay, and now you can see what I do here in the client. I can clear out one of these alarms. Okay. And then go back to the runtime. You can see everything is being mirrored between the two. So now to set this up for mobile access, um, first thing we'll do is we need to basically, we're going to save the screens as HTML. So I'm going to go just back into the file, save all as HTML. Now that's being done. Okay, so now that I've saved as HTML, and because I'm pretty much using the IIS structure, has the Blue Open Studio Machine SCADA Expert has structured it by default. Pretty much that's all I need to do is save those files as HTML. Okay, so now I can run the project. All right. So now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my client machine, and this time I'm not going to run the secure viewer. I'm just going to run Edge. And let me just put in, oh, I'll pick this one. I don't have a screen 2, so let me change it. Just put in main. And here you can see, here's my screens. Okay, so then on the same machine, I can actually, if I want to run the secure viewer thin client, I still can. It should still work. Okay, so I've got both of these running side by side. Okay, so now if I go back to my server slash runtime machine, and now let me look at the sessions, and you can see we've got two thin clients connected, right? We've got the mobile access thin client from the client machine, and the viewer client from the client machine. And you can see the local viewer still is not consuming a license. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the uh, target machine. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a trend graph to the main screen. So let me fit this back to the window. Okay, and I'm going to go to home. Sorry, go to the draw ribbon. Okay, pick the trend graph tool. Just gonna place it right here. Okay, and I'm not gonna set up an historical logging or anything like that. I'm just gonna run this locally, and I'll just call this. So this would be, so in my operator terminal expert HMI running as a Modbus slave, I have holding registers 5, 6, and 7 are changing. So let me just say, how about HR 5? Okay. Oops. Okay, 5. And we'll make this, oops, 0, 2, 3, 3,000. Make this HR 6. make 0, 5,000, different color. Get another different color. HR7. And we'll make that, oops, again, too fast. 500. Okay. Leave everything in the axis the same. I don't think I need to touch anything else, actually. Let me change the background color. Okay. All right. Save the screen. Save all as HTML. Okay. Run. You could see, there it is. You can kind of see that's the pen's coming through. Let me go to the client station. And let's just run Secure Viewer and see what we get. Okay. You can see we get the pens, etc. Right. We go to Browser. And there you go. So there's where you can kind of see some of where we start to see some major differences between the two different viewers. So here on this side, you've got Secure Viewer. Push this over the top. You've got Secure Viewer running. And right next to it, you've got basically what amounts to mobile access running in a browser. You can see that one of the main differences is between these two trend objects. Okay, so now let's talk about I guess when we called it the mobile access, the specific function that we could call it, or the specific section of screens, etc., that you can do in the mobile access. Okay, so first thing is we go into project, we go into mobile access. Don't need to, not going to get into any of this stuff here. We're going to basically go to the area settings, and then you can see we can do a couple of different things. Okay, so here we're just going to call this area main. We're not going to do a lot. What we want to do is, one thing we want to do is we want to publish our screen to this interface. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And then the other thing that we'll do right now is we'll trend this and we'll tie it to a circular gauge. Same here for 6. Okay. And then I think we did something like that, or the blue. Okay. And you can see I'm using, okay, that circular gauge here, and we will trend that. So the trend, okay, so I have those 3 registers that are coming over and changing all the time. I've got them tied to a circular gauge widget, and then I have them in the trending. And that is actually referring to a completely separate, even though I'm logging the same values, this is a completely separate trending object that exists in the mobile access piece. The alarm piece is using the same from the runtime. This trend piece is different. So save the mobile access, save as HTML. Okay, so now I'm going to run it. Okay. So now when I come back to my client machine, and this time I'm going to go to my standard just like I was before. I'll just go to main, and you can see same thing. I go right to main. Okay. Now what I can do is if I want to get at the mobile access piece, I'm just going to do this in a real simple way. I'll just delete that part of the URL out, and right after the IP address, I'm just going to type in MA. Okay. So then what you'll see here is even though I don't have any users set up in my project, it still is asking me to log on because I did not send it any user information in this address field. So since I don't have any users, I can just simply hit log on. And then you'll see I launch into the basically what amounts to the mobile access, the unique mobile access interface. And you can see it has some distinct sections. Okay, and you can have multiple sections actually. So I'm going to go to alarm to start with, and you can see this is just simply the alarms from the normal runtime. We go to the screen section. So any of the screens that I've published to the mobile access piece, I can access them from here. And then you can see I drill into it, and it's basically the entire screen. Okay. Make some alarms. Okay. Go back, go back. Then if we go to these process values, then these are where those widgets showed up. I basically overloaded them. I didn't change the range, but you could see a compact little gauge, again, kind of optimized for your cell phone, small screens, etc. Okay. And then if you look at the trend, you can see here, this is again, we've maxed out, so the only pen it's drawing right now is this really slow moving one. Okay. But you can see a completely different trending tool, very simplified interface. Okay. So that's the mobile access piece. Okay, and then one last item to note is with this type of arrangement where you have a client, basically a client server um, architecture, one of the things that you're able to do in the um, basically in the global tag list is you'll notice that there's a scope field, and here you can define the scope, which means where is this tag being operated on? Is it being operated on locally or in the server? And that's referring to where this is actually happening. If it's by default, everything is server, which means everything that happens is happening local to the runtime. Okay? Now, what I have the ability to do is I do have the ability to say local, and then what that means is that what happens in each viewer place or in the runtime, I have a local copy of this data, and also in the client, I will have my own local data that is completely separate. And notice that if this is local, this will not actually go to the PLC, but it will use it actually what it does is it actually uses this index number to this holding register index number to figure out uh, that's just the objects that have everything tied to that in the clients will have their own local copy of that data. Okay, so now that I make that, so to illustrate that, I'm going to make that local. Okay, and I'm going to, okay. And I'm not sure if I need to do this, but I'm just going to save all as HTML again. Now I'm going to run this. And since this is in the local copy, this is actually communicating to the PLC. Okay. This is changing the data in the PLC. So you can see I'll put it right at 52. Okay. So now we're going to go back to our client, and we'll go to the browser. Just do it through here. And you can see now its own local copy of that data is showing 0. I'll make it 28. And on the server, you can see. So each area has a local copy. This being on the server, this with the connection to the PLC, this is being written to and read from the PLC, where the remote client, this is strictly a local copy of that data.